Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the Love and Light podcast powered by 103.9 WDKX. Yeah, bro. Last time we talked about the economic boycott because remember February 28th, we were, it was the economic boycott. And listen, these corporations lost some money.
They took a serious hit.
Yes.
So people was like, what is it going to do? Is it really going to matter?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does.
It did. And so, Jamal Bryant, who's a pastor down in Atlanta, there's the 40-day Target boycott that's going on right now. And so for 40 days, he's pushing for people to boycott Target. And, I really didn't understand the reason behind, like, why did he pick Target? And so this past Sunday, I was listening to a clip from his sermon, and he was saying, like, why did they pick Target? And they picked Target because that Target is headquartered in a place where George Floyd actually was killed. And he said that after everything had went down, that Target had committed that in 2025 that they would be given, like billions of dollars to Black-owned businesses, right? And so they were the first ones to take that away because now they don't have to give the money because they said that they were going to do it in 2025. So that's the reason why he's calling for the 40-day sort of boycott of Target right now. But on day one, when it was February 28th, corporations lost billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars. Looking into it, researching it, I think that was reported 12.7 billion up to almost 15 billion right now. Stocks plummeted to like $27 for their stocks, which I'm sure was much larger than that prior to the boycott. So they're feeling the hit in the pocket, like for real.
Yeah,
so,
and if people feel like their dollars don't count, yes,
they do. They matter. They matter. We said "Fight the Power" was the title of the last show.
Yes,
and we definitely are seeing people. We did that. We're doing that consistently. And I would say, first of all, I was really shocked. Some of the other stores, like
Walmart.
Costco's, Walmart, Amazon.
But Costco, they were not a part of it. Remember, because they are still supporting their diversity.
They lost money too. They lost billions too because people was like, they just didn't go shopping anywhere. A lot of people went and did only local businesses, minority businesses. They stuck to that platform that kind of was put out there. So a lot of these major corporations that may not have even been a part of canceling some of their DEI initiatives still were impacted. But my thing, what I was taking personal was that I don't shop at Target. Now, me and you was having this conversation, and I was like, well, I didn't understand. I was trying to figure out, I appreciate you telling us why Target was picked, because I myself was not a Target shopper, and I was thinking to myself, how many minority people actually really shop at Target? And I'm realizing that it's quite a bit of people shop there, but I've never really shopped at Target and didn't really know a lot of people who did.
I mean, but so your daughter is older than Taylor, but the young teenage girls, they love them some Target now.
All right.
So I had
they carry a lot of minority products that I was unaware of. I didn't realize that. So I'm hip. So I can see why they would have been chosen, number one, for what you said, and I can see the impact. We see the impact of us sticking together, using our it's like kind of like our power of our dollar to make an impact in society, so that not only I'm hearing people saying, hey man, we just want to sit at the table. People's like, oh, we got to build our own table, because being at the seat at the table, it obviously has not helped, because we've had people at that seat for times. And
absolutely,
somebody pointed out, I think it was Roland Martin, pointed out the board of directors of some of these companies. When you look at them, they literally showed their faces, and there was a lot of Black faces on some of these boards that sat and approved these DEI downsizing of these programs, or elimination in some cases and all. So we said this in the last show too, all of our skin folk ain't our kin folks. And there are certain people, it's not just having somebody at that table, but we got to have right people at the table that's willing to be courageous. Right. And we're going to be talking about that today, about courage and sportsmanship. But we got to be willing to be courageous in some of these incidences. It's not just being there, but being able to speak truth to power, oftentimes when you may be in the minority. This is episode 37 37 episodes. And we're doing video now, which I got to get used to. I'll be honest with you, to our viewers out there. I got to get used to the video thing because now, we have to.
I tell you what thing, I got to lose some weight.
Me too. I looked at the thing. I was like, yo, I'm back. Look, they got me back in my cycle classes. You hear me? I'm back in cycle classes. I'm back working out. I'm like, I refuse to be on TV looking any type of way. So y'all, I want y'all to see the transition. Y'all got the viewers. I got to let us know because we are going to see the transition as we move into the summer months of getting things back in perspective. But just grateful to be here again and grateful for our audience. Thank you for everyone who's listening. And we want you to know that we want you to call in. You can call or text the frontline number at 585-678-1039. And you can tell us how you like the show. Give us new show topics. You can also use the open mic feature on the app to leave us a message about the show because we want to hear your input. And now that they're being placed on YouTube, you can also put your comments in there. You can subscribe, like, share. You big time now, girl.
Yeah. You all Listen, so today we're going to be talking about courage and sportsmanship.
Before we get into that, though, we got our love segment.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was about to talk about.
Okay, I got to do our love lifting segment. All right. I thought you was going right in there.
No. So recently, I believe it was last week, or, we in Section 5, in New York State, upstate New York, Section 5, Rochester basketball. And there were tournaments that was happening. And I just saw the most amazing video, right? Okay. And I talked about this on my social media as well, where this young man from Fairport, he was playing against one of his friends from Aquinas. And it was a buzzer beater. Like, I wish I was at this game when I saw this video. And it was like 71-70, right? And so the young man from Fairport, and I can't remember his name, but after the game, he celebrated, but then he realized that his friend was over there that he was playing against was hurt. And he just went over and embraced his friend and was like, whatever he said to him, I don't know what he said to him in his ear, but held him. And it was
he was on the opposite team.
Amazing to see.
And so when you say he was hurt, he wasn't physically hurt. He was just devastated from the loss. Loss.
So he was just bent down, rather he was crying, but just completely just upset about the whole thing. And his friend, the one that won, just took the time out, not just to celebrate, but to go over and
lift them up,
and say, what, bro,
Sportsmanship.
You lost, we fought the good fight, I'm going on to the big house, but I'm going to stop in this moment and share it with you and let you know that I'm here for you. And, until the next time. I just thought that was just so courageous. Absolutely. And it was some really a real good display of sportsmanship that we all can learn from. And so for the love lifting segment on this episode, we're going to talk about being courageous and, displaying sportsmanship. I mean, when you go up against, in anything, right? I mean, we're in politics, you're running against people, all the time, or, you're in competition and things like that. It's not, the competition is not the big thing. It's how you deal with the wins and how you deal with the losses.
Absolutely. It's about having faith and courage against all odds and obstacles, even despite when you don't never think the outcomes. I think that's the thing where courageous actually is built out of that. It's built out of not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing the fate, but you still got to keep going. You still got to move forward. You still got to put your best foot forward. Were you always, where did your courage come from? Like, were you always a courageous, strong person, or where would you say your courage came from?
I mean, I think that it came from my faith. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
And wanting to, step out there and do right on behalf of people. I think that, the Bible, Joshua 1:9, it's interesting because for some reason, I woke up with that scripture and that was one of my grandfather's favorite scriptures in my mind, be strong and courageous.
Be courageous.
Yeah. So I woke up with that scripture in my spirit this morning. And so I think that, your courage comes from your faith and your understanding of the word, and, recognizing that, if you don't do it, who will?
It's about pushing forward when fear tells you to stop, right? Pushing forward when fear tells you to stop.
Deep.
And I think about when I say where it's to come from, I was actually I wanted to hear your point, but I think we both, and those that are listening, just being Black and brown in America is going to build a certain level of courage in you, because you're going to have, or if you don't know it, you're going to find it out very quickly.
Right.
Just being Black and brown in America builds a certain level of courage. And I would also offer that growing up in the inner city, going through city school district, you know what I'm saying? I heard you was kind of, a fighter. You know what I mean? I heard that. No, I heard that about you. Now, I heard you was kind of tough. You was kind of fighter. So you had to be growing up in the environment, especially in the times we were growing up. And I'm sure the same thing's happening now with bullying and everything going on the way it is. You had a certain level of toughness, courageousness, to even be able to go through the inner city. I remember the days of just walking to school. You had to be courageous just to get to school.
Yeah.
Right. Because we had bullies, they got internet bullies today, but we had real bullies. Right.
They're gonna meet you outside in the playground, right?
Right.
We going outside to the playground and everybody.
I remember times of just trying to walk to school or walk certain places within our community that I had to be courageous just to walk to the store.
Well, people have to do it now. I mean, when you say like having that courage and stepping foot out in many urban areas today, that's what our children have to face.
That's what our young people have to face,
is to really come outside their four walls or come outside their house and walk down the street and go to the store and go to school, and all of that builds up your ability to be courageous, and also to shift, and also to change, and also to learn how to operate and navigate, right? We often talk about shifting into these different spaces, that, who you are in the pulpit is not who you are. I see the council are not who you are, when you're dealing with your seniors.
Sure.
And all of that takes, a level of courage and a level of sportsmanship, because you have to know what sport to play,
what game is it?
What game to play when, right? So when you work with
what position
the
do you have in that game? And we're not calling life a game, but you really have to kind of put it in perspective of a way that you can grasp it and have the capacity to deal with life, because life is hard and it's difficult for some people. Waking up is courageous for a lot of people. Just getting out of their bed and facing life every single day is very difficult.
Especially those that face depression.
Yeah. And this time of year, we're coming out of the fall, you know what I mean? But the fall can be a very depressing time for a lot of people. People go through a lot of different emotions. They go through a lot of different things when you can't get outside as much. There's not as much light. And we had a cold up here in Rochester, New York this year was a very, very cold winter.
It was a crazy winter. I found myself like, if this snow don't go away, I am cold. It did. I was just telling somebody, I was like, I am so sick of this weather being what I consider bipolar, right? Well, 1 minute it's hot, next minute it's cold. 1 minute it's hot, it's like Mother Nature, figure out
what you gonna do.
What you want to do.
But that's Rochester for you. And I think we got spoiled over the last few years since the pandemic, because I remember as a kid, our winters would be like this all the time. We would have more of the Buffalo winter, as opposed to us not really getting a lot of snow, it's not being too cold. And for the last few years, we got really spoiled. And then we finally got hit where I think we had more snow this year than Buffalo did. And it was colder than it is in more northern parts of our region. But, nonetheless, like I said, that itself takes a lot of courage for people. And I guess our inspiration to inspire people today is to realize that, when we're looking at life, right? And you said that scripture, Joshua 1:9, which is a great scripture. It's like, don't give up, be courageous. Don't be afraid, right? Your faith can take you through all things. And there's sometimes where that's all you're going to have.
Yeah.
friends will let you go. Come on, what about them? People,
fair weather friends,
yes,
right?
Yes.
The and Lord thy God is with you wherever you go, right? And so when you're thinking about being courageous, you recognize that even in those darkest times, you're not by yourself. Right? You're not alone. There is, the Spirit is with you. It's in you, right? And so although it may be tough, you have to get up. You have to keep going. You have to not allow those things that you think are just, problematic, because, trouble don't last always, Amen. Right? Amen. It doesn't last always. Right. Tomorrow will be brighter. Today you might be struggling and, things might be a little bit challenging, but you know what? Tomorrow it may be a better day, right? Or the day after that, or the day after that. So you have to have that courage.
Episode 37, the Love and Light podcast, powered by 103.9 WDKX, talking about being courageous, courage, and sportsmanship. I think of our experiences. A lot of times we really don't dive into a lot of our experiences. We come from a lot of different backgrounds, but we've been through a lot to be as young as we are. But I think about courage. I think about my military time.
Oh yeah.
I think about on the fire department, because oftentimes, we have different experiences, and we don't understand all of our fears until you're faced with certain obstacles that you've never been faced before. Yeah. And I promise you, when I was being on the fire department, and certain calls really allowed me to see some things that I maybe not knew that I was afraid of before, that I had to face my fears. Like I was saying before, being able to go forward despite your fear telling you to stop. And and when you're pressed, especially, being
pressed on time, you got a certain amount of time to go in there, get those people out.
Yeah, and I've been in those incidences where I almost didn't have time to think. So, we always talk about muscle memory. And so that's why I say I encourage people to continue to practice on how to do things that you may be fearful of, because as you keep doing them and doing them and doing them, it becomes a time when it's just muscle memory. You're just going to do it because you're programmed to do those things, right? And so when on the fire ground or in emergency situations, even now to this day, I find myself where a lot of people are kind of panicking or getting overwhelmed, and I tend to be the person that's kind of quiet and kind of gather myself and figure out, okay, how do I attack this situation? How do I deal with this problem? How do I fix this? Or how do I, and I'm grateful for that training that I received on the fire department, because it did let me know my limitations, because we all have limitations too.
Absolutely.
There's some things that, we just not going to do. You can be as crazy as you want to do, but I ain't fighting Mike Tyson. I don't care how old he is.
Listen, I don't even want to talk about that fight. Don't even. I don't even want to talk about it.
They can't pay me enough to get in the ring site with Mike Tyson. I'm sorry, I ain't doing it.
When you think about being, when you brought up the whole thing about being courageous and your experience in the fire department and going into those fires and, having that limited ability or that limited time, right, to try to figure certain things out, right, how to make it work. And it's, it takes not only courage, but it also, you got to work with people.
Yes.
Because you're not going in there by yourself. You have to be a team player. You have to be a team player. You have your captain out there. You have, your other firefighters. You have a whole plan that you have to execute, even in going in war, right? You have to go in. You have to make sure that you execute properly. And I think that if you look at that as life, right?
That's right.
And in your life, right? You have to have a plan. You have to have a strategy. You have to be able to execute that plan and, also be able to adjust. If at any point in time, things aren't going exactly the way that you want it to go, then you have to be able to adjust. And I know for myself, like, listen, I had to adjust on the fly, right? It's like, wake up one morning and your whole life fall apart and you like, what am I going to do?
How do you see I think people struggle with that, because it's people think, hey, especially like I think about the church and when people, they change their life and things to become different for them. And they think, okay, now everything's going to be great. And then you start finding out that you have these trials, because we're all going to have trials. We all going to have tribulations. And then people they get to a point where once the trial or the tribulation comes, that they get stuck and they go, how to adjust? What does adjustment, how, like when you're giving people advice to like, for you, how is adjusting for you? Some people it's easy to do. Some people it's very difficult for you. Do you find that adjusting is how is it for you?
Adjusting is hard, I think, for everybody to make a decision that they need to adjust, right? So because a lot of times you may want to stay in a situation, or you're like, wait a minute, like I think I just want to ride it out, right? So sometimes you figure out, well, do I need to just ride it out, or do I need to make another decision or choice? And change is hard, right? So people want to, they go through change, or they want change, but they don't want to go through the process of change. And so I would say that adjusting and being able to is first, you have to know that you have to make a decision, right? You have to make a choice. You
got to stop at one point and see. You got to check where. Like I think about the mall, right? And that a lot of times, especially a big mall. If you go to real big malls and you try to figure out where am I, and they have those little things on the map that show you, okay, you're here,
right?
So I think what I hear you saying is, first of all, I got to stop and realize, that where am I, right, in this situation, in this process,
right?
From number one, where am I in this process?
Yes.
And then once I figure out, like, where am I in this process? Then where am I trying to go? I got to make a decision on what am I going to do next?
Right. You cannot not make a choice.
But a lot of people at that point, I think that's where some people get stuck.
Right.
They get stuck, first of all, in denial of not wanting to recognize where they are and what the situation is. And then when some people don't understand stuff, their response is to do nothing.
Right. But the courage comes
that's where courage
in making the choice.
To go forward, even when the fear tells you to stop.
Yep.
You still got to go forward and say, you know what? I'm not. I think the biblical thing, it says, am I just going to sit here and die?
Right.
Nah.
Right. The courage is in making a choice.
You got to get up.
You got to make
a choice and a decision. And
I'm going to live and not die.
And that requires some idea of planning.
Yes, absolutely.
And what role is people are going to play? Because we're not in this by ourselves, right? Of course, our faith helps us, but then we have people that help us too. So we have to figure out in this sportsmanship, in this game of life that we're playing, which is not a game, but if you look at it from that perspective and having a team, we all have to have a support team.
Absolutely.
I tell people all the time, you're a CEO of you. I tell kids when I go talk to kids, I say, kids, do you know what a CEO is? And they go, nah, it's like, I go, a CEO is a chief operating officer of a company. I said, do you know that you're a CEO?
Yes.
I'm not no CEO. I said, yes, you are. You're the chief operator of you.
Right.
You're the CEO of you. And you got to look at yourself as a company. And how do you, every company needs a team.
Yes.
So you got to build a team, the best team you can have around you to make your company, which is you, the best that you can be, a Fortune 500 company, because it's only going to be based on the team that you have surrounding you. And they be looking like,
listen, brother, that'll preach. That will preach.
Like, what? I'm like, yeah, you are the CEO. You are the owner. You got to go out and find the best team to make you the best that you can be. That's your job. Absolutely. Is to build your team to make you the best.
Yes. I mean, I can't add nothing else to it, because that's accurate, right? When you think about anybody in their life, whether you're young or whether you're old, right? There are, it takes courage to make those, to recognize where you're at. It takes courage to make the choice, whether I'm going up or down. And it takes courage to surround yourself with the right people, right? Because that's what you're talking about. Surrounding yourself with the right people that's going to help you accomplish your dream. Because I can tell you, surrounding yourself with the wrong people,
which is what majority of people end up doing.
And you have to leave some people behind.
Everybody can't go.
Everybody can't
go. Everybody don't want to go, and everybody don't want to see you go.
Right.
So you got to realize that you have the courage and the sportsmanship of what we learn. Hopefully, a lot of times we learned a lot of these disciplines in home and in the school. Because the first sportsmanship I did was learning when I joined the football, Pop Warner football is when I started learning with the Southwest Colts here locally. That's when I started learning. That's why these programs are so important.
Oh, so important.
That's where the kids are learning these first life skills and qualities to be able to do that. And we got to know that, okay, it takes a certain level of humility, right, to go out and find other people to help you be the best that you can be, because you have to realize I don't know everything. I can't do it all by myself. And I learned that in my sportsmanship young in Pop Warner football, because, everybody want to be the quarterback.
Everybody want to be a quarterback.
But everybody ain't quarterback material. No. I wasn't quarterback material. So listen,
you gotta learn.
I was always a big kid, right? I was always a stocky kid, right? And I remember talking about sportsmanship and being humble and being able to learn these skills that help turn into adult life skills for you later. So I remember coming home from practice after trying out to be I wanted to be in the cool positions, right? The quarterback, the running back, something like that. So I wasn't fast enough, I wasn't tall enough, I wasn't quick enough, right? So for those positions, but I got drafted I got picked as the number 1 starting center, right, for the Southwest Colts, which I was playing up to, right? So I was younger, but I was playing a junior midget, but I should have been like a midget because I was young, but I was big enough to do that position. So I went home with my father, got kind of like all sad, and I was like, I didn't make the team. I didn't make the positions that I wanted. You know what he said to me? He said the most deepest thing to me. He said, listen, what do you mean you didn't make the team? He said, you got picked up, you're starting, right? I said, yeah, but I'm starting as a center. I don't want to be no center. He said, the game don't start without you. I said, what? He said, you're the first person to touch the ball. And you're going to play every game. You're going to play in every game. Yeah. You start in center. You start the game.
Right.
The game don't start without you. You know how important you are?
Right.
And I was like, he said, you protect the quarterback. I was like, so my chest got poked out, right? I'm like,
now you standing tall.
So you got to every position is important. Matters in life, right? And I think oftentimes what people mess up is everybody want to be the boss.
Right.
Everybody want the biggest position or the tightest position, but every position matters. And the part of sportsmanship, like you said with that young man, he won the game, but he realized this other person was hurting. He didn't want to beat them down. He lifted them up even when they may have not got the thing that they wanted. But at the same time, it's all about everybody wins, right? At the end of the day.
Absolutely. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody's position is important. Mm-hmm. Recognize and understand what your position is. Mm-hmm. And play it to the best of your ability.
Play it to your best.
Have the courage to play it to the best of your ability. This is the 11 Light Podcast, powered by 103.9
WDKX.
I am Lovely Lauren, and I encourage you to love like no one's loving you.
Forgive her, people. It's all right. It's our bloopers, and it's okay. Create a new one.
Listen.
Just say what
Listen, I encourage you to dance like nobody's watching.
You sure?
Love like it's heaven on earth. And yeah.
Think about that part. And remember, you can't put a lampshade on the sun. So keep your light shining, family. God bless you. We love you. Peace.